Greetings, traveler. Today, we're going to talk about this thing right here, the minimap, and what core purpose it serves in a video game, and how would we go about designing one from the ground up the easy way without too much fuss. Today, I'm going to be showing off this minimap from Red Dead Redemption 2, but if you don't know anything about this game, don't worry about it because I'm only using it as a visual example. If you don't know who I am, my name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years now. I've worked on games like FIFA, Star Ocean, Idolmaster, and many others. So the minimapping games is a topic that's very dear to my heart because not only I'm using it in the current video game that I'm developing, but also because it really makes you wonder exactly what elements you need to include in it. Just like with anything in game design, I suppose, you start wondering, well, I should probably add this thing because it's going to be useful to the player. And yeah, I'm going to add that thing as well because that's also cool and useful to the player. And before you know it, you end up with a minimap that's just a map, really. And it includes absolutely everything and is basically a small camera into your world. Now, not that this is a wrong approach or anything, but today we're going to focus on a very, very simple layer. And first, we're going to talk about what is the purpose exactly of a minimap? Why does a game need one? And of course, you can include it for any reason in a game, but why would you need to include it? What's the core function it serves, without which gameplay would be very difficult or even impossible? Well, for most games, from a game developer perspective, you don't want to end up in a situation where the player doesn't know what to do next. If the player ends up in a situation where they don't know what to do next, then they start looking around, they play with the controller a little bit, and if they don't know what to do, they just quit the game. They think the game is badly designed, or it's not fun, or they will never use the right words to describe their situation, because typically users of products are not expert developers of these products. They just know that there's something wrong and they might blame something around the product. But we as developers, we know this phenomenon because we see it a lot. So if the players don't know what to do next, yes, they're very likely to go and do something else other than this video game. So the purpose the minimap rather, here serves in games is specifically to answer that question. And the way it answers this question is, in most games, you usually have to go to an area in-game, like the one here in Red Dead, and you have to gather some items, defeat some enemies, do some quests, and so on. Sometimes you're just exploring an area and you want to see if there's something interesting in it. And that is the key question. Is there something interesting in the area I'm in right now? Now, you might use your camera to just look around, but perhaps like I'm doing right now, I don't really see anything visually. I mean, there's those deer in the distance. But other than that, perhaps there's a house over there, but that's far away. I don't see anything I could interact with. Now, what the minimap is there to tell me is there something around here that I could explore and I could perhaps have fun with? Now, this is not to say that since this particular game is not showing anything in the minimap, there's nothing going on, because this game has its own mechanics that we're not going to get into in this video. But ideally, you want the player to be able to extract that specific information from the minimap. So what should I do next? And when we start thinking about this, the hard way of thinking about it is trying to include absolutely everything in the minimap, like I said before. So instead of doing that, let's think about it in a simple way, specifically thinking about how much area the minimap should cover, what objects or artifacts or icons the minimap should feature, and finally, do we need to include terrain features in the minimap? So you might see here in the minimap here, you have this river outline here, which shows us that a bit off to the east, there is a river. So we can't see it. Maybe if we go a bit closer here, we can see the river. Or it's not even a river. I'm not even sure what it is. As a player, I would be confused. But anyway, so do we need to include features like that? Yes or no? So let's take it one at a time. First of all, how much distance should a minimap provide, and why is this important? You might have seen in various games that the minimap itself is either too small, like here where it only shows the immediate area around us, or it can be extremely large, showing off perhaps the entire world, as you could do it in the campaign map of Total War Warhammer, for example. It is possible to make that setting, although I don't know how useful it is. So to begin to reason about the area the minimap should cover, I think it's useful to think about how can we show the bare minimum to the player without overcomplicating the minimap. And by that I mean, how can we reveal at least 2 or 3 additional objectives for the player, or points of interest for the player to explore, without overcrowding the minimap with 100 icons or something. And to do that, what I always like to start with is, let's say around here, around the midpoint between the center of the minimap and the edge of the minimap, right around here, I would draw a circle that goes all around the minimap. And I would say that this circle is what the player can immediately see around them. So game-wise, let's say that would be a circle from here to that tent over there, and same distance around the player. So this is the immediate area around the player where you can clearly see objects in your scene. Now the area outside the circle, so not towards the middle, but outside of the circle, so this outer ring here, would be where we want to show off these extra objectives the player could go for, or these extra things for the player to check out. Because remember, the mentality here is the minimap exists to never let the player be bored or think that there's nothing to do. If we keep the additional objectives, so enemies to defeat, resources to gather, quests to deliver or to pick up, then at least we know that the player has some information about what to do next, and he won't feel lost. So that's the very basis of the minimap, without even talking about what to put inside it, just the area it covers. Now there's other considerations here. So should the minimap turn like it does in Red Dead, or should we have a triangle cone showing what the player is looking at right now? So these are excellent questions. I really like talking about this. If you're interested in it, let me know down below, and perhaps I can talk about it. But let's move on to the next point about the icons. So icons, I think, are a fascinating topic in game design, because they directly deal not only with what people know from real life. So for example, if here on the minimap you see the icon of a horse, then it's something you know from real life, right? You've seen images of horses before, so it's easy to convey. But sometimes when we add icons to minimaps, then most players don't know what these icons are because they've never seen them before. They don't look like anything from real life sometimes, and other times we haven't taken the time to teach the player what this icon is supposed to represent. So I'm going to use this tent here as an example. So if I were to look at this tent, the tent icon rather, right here, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it is. To me, it looks like a pirate flag. Why? I'm not sure. But yeah, that would be my impression. So the way the game teaches you in this case what this icon is supposed to be is because you can compare it to what you see in front of you. And this is a very key element. Once the player makes that pairing with what's in front of them or visible and what the minimap shows, then they can generally identify it in the future. So if I came up this icon in the future, and for some reason it wasn't my camp, or there was a camp there set up by someone, then I might think, okay, that's the icon I know from the camp, so that's how the icon has meaning to me. And I'm stressing this point because it's extremely easy to put things in a minimap, or the map itself actually, and have them be completely missed by the player because the player doesn't know the meaning. Imagine if suddenly we saw in the minimap here a black triangle with no features, a little black triangle that we've never seen before. If there's nothing obvious to tell us what this is supposed to represent, we would have no idea. And when you don't have any idea about what something is, you usually skip it over and you go for something that you don't know what it is. So a known quest marker, or an exclamation mark, or or the horse icon, or something like that. So something you do know is always going to take priority. Now, if you're 100% in exploration mode and you're actively looking for new icons or new objects in the map, then yeah, I suppose you would be inclined to investigate the triangle. But otherwise, it's really easy to miss it. So in the outer circle that I spoke about before, where we add the additional objectives, or even in the inner circle if the player is exploring one of these objectives, is where you find these little icons. And by showing it to the player on screen, so let's see, somewhere here in the middle of the screen, and at the same time showing it coming closer to the player in the minimap, then by doing this over and over again, we can make sure that the player makes an association between this icon and this in-game object. So when the player completes all the objectives in the immediate area around him and he looks for what to do next, then on the outer circle, if there is 2 or 3 icons of enemies to hunt, or resources to gather, or quests to pick up, for example, then the player is not lost anymore, and in fact he has a choice of whether to go for either of these objectives, or perhaps even all of them. And that brings me to the last point of whether map features, so minimap features, are necessary inside the minimap. Now, why is this a question? You might be inclined to say, well, yeah, you obviously need map features because they're there in the normal, in the normal map of the game. So why wouldn't you include it in the minimap? And that's a fair point. And in my experience, I'm of two minds about features in the minimap. One is, I've noticed that when I see map features that have to do with my traversal, they are useful. What that means is basically, if there was a cliff right in front of me here, and there was just no way I could get over this cliff, there's no way I could climb it, then I would like to see it in the minimap to sort of have a limitation, or like an explanation before I get there, that look, even if you go that way, you cannot go past that cliff. So you don't need to walk all the way up to the cliff. Just know that, for example, if your objective is beyond the cliff, going in this direction is only going to waste your time. So in these cases, I find it very useful. In cases like this, where we have this this road, I don't even know what it is. Is it a map limit thing? Anyway, we talked about this line in the middle of the minimap before that looks like a river or a road or something. If you have that and you don't understand its meaning, and it's not relevant to gameplay, so it doesn't make you change the way you play when you see it, then perhaps it's not necessary to include it in the map, and we can have a simpler design. In fact, I would say that if traversal is not really a problem, so if our whole game level was just like this plane here, where we can basically go wherever we want with no limitations, then it's probably better to focus on the icons and the objectives on the map, and keep the minimap otherwise clear, to make sure that the player doesn't need to decipher the minimap every time they look at it for objectives. But yeah, like I said, if there is an important terrain feature in the map, rather in the minimap, that the player should know about, that will change the way they play the game. So if you see the cliff or the impassable object, for example, in the minimap, then you would know that you cannot go beyond that, so that would specifically change what you're about to do next. So I think that would be useful. Anyway, that's it for what I think the basics are for minimaps. There's so much more to talk about this topic, because there's all these variables you can have, right? You can have different color minimaps. You would wonder, do we put icons on the minimap that are beyond the immediate area of the player? What if there's an objective on the other side of the world? Do we need to include that? Or do we need to include roads on the minimap when there's a line connecting the location of the player to their eventual objective? Or do we even need lines if you have a locked objective and something is guiding you to the objective on the map? So there's so much interesting stuff to talk about minimaps, but let's stop here for today for the basics. Let me know if there's something you would like to delve more deeply into. Anyway, that's it for me for today. I hope you find this interesting, and as always, have fun.